Welcome to the fourth Cheryl Reeve Show. I'm Jim Suhan, owner of the talknorth.com podcast network, a Minnesota sports and business and other stuff podcast network. This, though, we have a lot of great people on the network. This is the only show we do with someone who has a ring big enough to lift weights with, and she's wearing it today. It's massive. Yeah. Your right arm's going to be bigger than your left. We know that.
Yeah, we'll try to balance it out. We have rings for the other hand, too.
We are live at the Freehouse in the North Loop in Minneapolis, a place I've hung out quite a bit. Steph Shimp, co-owner of Blue Plate, is here with us. I go to all the Blue Plate places, including Edina Grill, the Lowry. I'm there all the time. Used to live right by here, walk over here all the time. They make their own beer. It's great stuff. It's a really cool bar area. That's where we're doing the broadcast from. Beautiful patio. Nice, big, open restaurant area. I'm a big fan of the Roto Bird. I've never said this before, Steph, but you guys make kale taste good, and that has not happened before in nature.
That's a serious compliment, and I'm taking it as such.
We're going to get into some basketball. We'll tell you more about the Freehouse later and all their beers and just how cool a place this is. But let's start here, Cheryl. You had media day today, and I was over there. We did a lot of interviews, and I think the core question of the season is, how do you repeat? Because for all of your accomplishments, that's the only thing you haven't done yet.
Yeah, that's the question we're asked quite a bit, but it's a great position to be in, right? Is how do you defend your title? It's the fourth time we're going to try to do it. I would say that we've collected a lot of knowledge along the way of what's necessary. I think we had it all but done in 2016. After winning in 2015, we put ourselves in position with just seconds to go and weren't able to close it out to get that repeat. So we win it again in 2017. We retool the roster, and we have a Maya Moore and a Sylvia Fowles that are right there in the smack of their prime and should be MVP candidates. And we obviously the rest of our roster is really solid. So we just gotta kind of take it the day to day. And I know that's something that's maybe hard for people. That sounds too simple, but it is the right mindset that you got to lock into the moment. If it's at practice, winning a drill. If it's a game, winning a possession. You don't look out at the big picture. You focus on the small things.
In my position, people are always asking me who's going to win the games. I always tell them I have no idea. In fact, they don't know who's going to win the games. How am I going to know? Is that true? Do you have any sense of how good you are now or how the season's going to go?
No idea. We just know that we're all working hard in training camp, all 12 teams. Once it tips on Friday, actually, we don't play till Sunday, but when the league tips on Friday, the roster moves that were made, that everyone's talking about, it now becomes a reality. And some people will fulfill the expectations and others won't for a variety of reasons. So I would say at this point, we have an idea which teams are going to be really good, but where they end up finishing, there's obviously no way to tell that.
Tell me about the ring you're wearing, about the next ring you're getting, and about the time you spent with Glenn Taylor this week.
Yeah, the ring that I have on tonight is after the third championship. It's not bad, right? It's Glenn Taylor did great by us.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, Glenn Taylor owns the ring company where we get our rings, so that's quite convenient. A lot goes into the design. Myself and Roger Griffith. We gather with the captains, and we accept their input about what they want to see and the shape of it, what they want on it, what they want written on it. And so that was no different this time. Matter of fact, our staff actually celebrated a championship here after we won. I think we were still hungover when we came here to the Freehouse and continued to enjoy some cocktails for a brunch. And then we just started talking about the fourth ring. What do we want to see in it? We took the captains to dinner. Collected a bunch of ideas, and this one we wanted to be different. We just didn't want to slap a fourth trophy on a ring. We wanted it to be really, really different. And so there was a lot of thought that went into the fourth ring and trying to be creative. And we think we have a one-of-a-kind championship ring that's about to be unveiled on Sunday to the fans. Now, like Jim mentioned, last night we were down at Glenn Taylor's house. It was our annual visit to the owner's place, and this particular time, we were able to gather as a group and give them each the ring. We gave them the box, and we all sat together. You should see these guys. They're like little kids at Christmas. They don't open the box yet. They wait for everybody. And then when we all were ready, we said, okay, open the box. And you should have heard the response to what they saw in the box. So we think we hit a home run. I was tickled because, again, the time and energy and the anxiety, because you're trying to top a ring that was really, really good. And we think we did it. We think we're able to do it. And it's unlike, we think, any other championship ring. And we wanted them to have a chance down at Glenn's to just sit there with it and hold it and look at all the details, because on game night you can't do that. I don't want them doing that. I don't want them to think about anything from last year. So when they accept them on Sunday, they're going to be handed a box. They might open it again one more time just to take a peek, but then they're going to hand it off to our managers, and then we got to play a game. We got to turn around and try to beat the LA Sparks, who I suspect are not going to be happy that they had to watch our banner raising and ring ceremony.
We talk a lot of current events on the show. We talk a lot about societal issues, women's sports. But, because this is our first live show, let's do something really basic here. You're now the general manager as well as the coach of the championship team in the WNBA. What are your coaching and management principles? What are the things that you rely on? What are the kind of the mantras you repeat to yourself?
Well, I would say the number one thing, I think if the players were here, and I've got my assistant general manager here, I think what the staff hears all the time and the players hear all the time is really simple. It's attention to detail. There's just no way around the idea that you have to pay attention to little things that you're doing. It could be a typo. It could be, in the case of basketball, it could be the wrong angle of a screen, or it could be timing. It could be something simple as having your hands up to be able to deflect passes. And so we really, really drill down into details. And I would say that's the kind of the core of our business. And then I think that the other part that we think is a must is whatever you're doing it passionately. Without the passion, number one, there's not the fun. Your ability to connect with your teammates, giving a high five, right? Eye contact, telling somebody good job. And that's in our office. That's not just on the court. We just really believe in that whole thing about being passionate about being at work and doing what we love. And we want the players to do the same thing. And I think that's what our fans see on game night. And that's the way that they approach it. And so those would probably be our staples.
A couple of your players mentioned today that the way you practice seems to be different from some teams, in that you're not just doing drills, you're not standing around. It seems like they said that everything is very active, everything is related to game situations. I assume that's intentional.
It is at this point for this team. I think if we had a young team, as some of the other franchises do around the league, we've done all this. If we go back to 2010, 2011, we've done all the breakdown drills, and we had to kind of develop our base. If I were to try to do those drills now with this group, they'd all walk out. Like, they would be done. That's why we can't do them. I might want to do them, but I can't. They're just so far advanced in it. And at the end of the day, there's time for skill workouts outside of practice. And that's where we get some of the other stuff, some of the drill work. So once we're at practice together, we try to maximize their time so they're not there for very long. And we try to make it very meaningful, like you said, very, very game-like situations.
Do you still get nervous? Will you be nervous on Sunday night or Sunday afternoon?
I don't like the word nervous. I would say anxious. And you're anxious because, as a coach, you can't control anything. Once we walk out of the practice facility on Saturday, that's it as far as our preparation. That's all I can control, is what we were working on, the information that we gave them. And then now you have to sit and wait. So we're going to finish, say 2 o'clock. We're going to tip off at 4. For those, that 24-hour period, it's heck for a coach. I mean, it's grueling when you're just worrying about, is Syl going to be still napping because 2 o'clock is her nap time? How's Lindsay feeling? Is Maya going to listen to me tonight, or is she just going to run around? You worry about all that stuff, and you can't help it. So that's what creates the anxiety. Then the game starts, and it gives you something else to focus on, which is good.
Are you telling me Maya Moore doesn't listen to you?
Oh, she listens to everything that I say. It's just more, when she's on the court, she'll tell me, Maya, why did you do that? I don't know, Coach, I blacked out. You know, it just, but mostly good for Maya.
Maya's a really interesting player, and we all know how great she is, how many championships she's won, her winning percentage as a basketball player and a pro, and all that's undeniable. But she also, you know, from talking to people around the organization, from watching her for so many years, she seems to me to be the kind of player who can maybe do not quite the right thing and still make it work.
I mean, that's spot on. That's absolutely spot on, and it's infuriating to lesser talented people that have to do everything exactly right. Maya is one that, first of all, she's tremendous at, you never know when she made a mistake.
Right.
She will never hang her head. She will never beat herself up. She will always move on to the next play, and that's really, really special. Maybe she turned it over, and I'm over there, you know, yelling or whatever, and she's turning around getting a steal. She's turning around making a play. You know, Jim Pete used to always tell me, you got to have her out there because she's going to make a play. You don't know when or what it's going to be, but she's going to make a play. She's just really, really special that way.
Let's introduce Steph Shimp. Thanks for being here, Steph, and thank you for having us. We appreciate it. This is a lot of fun. It's a great venue for a podcast, obviously a great venue for having a drink or a meal. Why don't you just tell me about, I mean, I'm between two big success stories here. Tell me about your story, Freehouse's story, and how this place came to be, because this is one of your newer places.
Yeah, this we opened here in December of 2013.
Mm-hmm. I was here that week, first week you were here.
Right after the federal government shut down.
Yes.
We were trying to get into play before December 31, get all of our equipment in service and such. And the government shut down in the middle of that, and our license, our brewer's license from, I think, the TTB, which is through the Department of Justice, which at the time was non-essential services during a shutdown, was sitting on someone's desk in Washington. And, you know, thankfully, with the help of our great Senator Amy Klobuchar, we were able to maybe move that to the top of the pile. Yeah, that's about once the government came back into play. But it was a scramble. We had people hired. We hadn't made beer yet. And it takes about 3 weeks to make just a basic batch of beer. And that would be an ale. If you're making lagers, it can take, 6 weeks to let a lager settle out. So how do you open a brew pub without beer?
Quietly?
Yeah. We have friends, and as I'm assuming you have a great, network of other coaches and such. The good people at Liftbridge Brewery over in Stillwater gave us a hand and let our brewers come over with our recipe and brew on their equipment, which is really cool.
Awesome.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So Freehouse has always had a soft spot for Liftbridge, and I'm sure we always will. So.
And it's a great location right here in North Loop, and the patio open is beautiful, and we recommend people come down. I know you're a big fan of Cheryl's. Why don't you ask her a question or two?
Well, okay, so my first game, I was brought to the game by my teenage daughter. What's it like to have all these young women looking up at you? And for the right reasons. Because I have a son, and he looks up to some of the other sports figures, and I don't approve as much. There's not as much going on there in terms of values and what I want my kids to be like. What do you think of that?
Well, it's something that we take very seriously. We don't just talk about basketball with our team. We talk a lot about social issues, who we want to be as a franchise, and I don't know that every franchise does this, but it's really important to us in that we know a lot of people are watching, and especially young girls and boys. And with the young girls, for them to be able to see players like Maya and Lindsay and Simone and Rebecca and Sil hard at work, the way that they do it with the chemistry, what they're teaching them and values of teamwork, good sportsmanship, and like you talked about, they're tremendous people off the court, and that's just it's a torch that we're happy to carry. We feel tremendous responsibility. I love the story of Maya Moore. When she first learned about the WNBA, she was just 8 years old. And there was a player that impacted her. She said she was just a young and energetic 8-year-old, misplaced energy, was in trouble all the time, which is really hard to imagine. I'm sure it was just more hyperactivity. But she said,